I stood in front of the wrought iron gates of the oceanfront estate my family still called the Joyful Retreat. It used to be a childhood haven, but now it was a hollow shell of memories that no longer included me. It used to be a childhood paradise, but now it was just a perfect picture of memories that no longer belonged to me. I leaned against the car, catching my reflection in the window glass. My face was a map of exhaustion, etched with the weight of their rejection. My hair blue in the coastal breeze, my eyes tired but still holding a spark. That spark was defiance. A flicker of hope I clung to. I had driven 5 hours to get here, hoping that this time they'd greet me with a hug instead of disdainful glances. "Well, look who showed up, Nora," came the sweet but mocking voice of my sister Abigail from the garden. She was laughing loudly, holding a cocktail glass, her auburn hair gleaming under the sun. Her laughter was a blade, cutting through my resolve. Around her were relatives and friends, all looking at me with curious eyes. Their gazes were a spotlight, exposing my outsider status. "Didn't think you'd show up," Abigail smirked, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. "I figured you'd be busy doing something insignificant." Her words were venom, dripping with condescension. I clenched the car keys, feeling the heat rise in my palms. I hadn't been here since the last time they laughed at me for losing my job. That memory burned. A wound they'd reopened, and now while Abigail flaunted her designer dress, I was still wearing the same old jeans, the only thing I could afford after paying rent this month. I stepped into the house, and the sound of laughter echoed from the living room. My mother stood in the center, holding a wine glass, her eyes shining as she looked at Abigail. Her adoration was a crown placed only on Abigail's head. My father stood beside her, arm around Abigail, his face beaming with pride. His pride was a wall, shutting me out. "Look at this, our wonderful daughter is now a director," my mother announced, her voice loud and thrilled, not even glancing at me for a single second. Her dismissal was a slap, ignoring my presence. Abigail giggled, her eyes glinting with smug satisfaction. "The company threw a celebration party for me. Naturally, everyone was there except you." Her taunt was a dart aimed at my heart. I bit down on my lip, forcing my voice to stay steady. "Mom, Dad, I just drove 5 hours to be here. Can I talk to you for a minute?" My plea was a whisper, lost in their celebration. My father looked at me, his expression blank. "Can't you see Abigail is talking about her new job? Try not to ruin the moment, Nora." His rebuke was a door, slamming shut in my face. My throat tightened. Everyone was laughing, clinking glasses in a toast to Abigail. Their joy was a stage, and I had no role. I just stood there, silent and invisible, like a stranger in my own family. My invisibility was a wound, bleeding silently. "Oh, Nora, I just remembered." Abigail sauntered over to me, still holding her cocktail glass. "Mom and Dad said I could stay in the apartment you're renting. After all, you don't need that much space." Her announcement was a theft, claiming what was mine. I frowned. "What do you mean?" Abigail shrugged, her lips curling into a smug grin. "I mean, they think you should move somewhere else. You know, I need the space for work, and they paid the deposit for that place." Her entitlement was a chain, binding me to their will. "So, they paid the deposit?" I repeated, barely able to believe my ears. My mother stepped forward, her eyes cold. "Nora, you need to understand that Abigail needs that apartment to focus on her new job, and you can manage on your own, right?" Her words were ice, freezing my heart. Yes, they had paid the deposit, but it was with money from my savings account, the money I'd spent 7 years scraping together. My savings were my lifeline, stolen without remorse. They had promised to pay it back. But now, Abigail shot me a pitying look. "You're always so strong, Nora. You'll be fine." Her pity was a mockery, belittling my struggle. A lump rose in my throat. I no longer recognized the people standing before me. They weren't family. They were just strangers dressed in fancy clothes, laughing about my sister's success without a single thought about me, the one they always called the failure. I turned and walked quickly out of the oceanfront estate. My exit was a rebellion, a refusal to be erased. The sea wind hit me, carrying the scent of salt and the sting of betrayal. The breeze was a mirror, reflecting their cruelty. I looked up at the sky, taking a deep breath to keep the tears at bay. The sky was my witness, holding my unspoken pain. One question echoed in my mind. Why was I always the one to sacrifice while they only took? The question was a fire, burning for answers. But I knew today would be the last time they'd treat me like a disappointment. I came here to say goodbye, and this time, I wasn't coming back. This was my farewell, a vow to reclaim my worth. I drove back to the tiny apartment I'd rented after losing my job. It was on the 8th floor of an old building with no elevator and a constant damp smell. The apartment was a prison, a reminder of my fall. This wasn't where I'd imagined living at 34. Not after being the deputy financial director at a major company. My past success was a ghost, haunting my present. But as the door closed behind me, I felt an odd sense of calm. The quiet was a refuge, shielding me from their scorn. At least here, I didn't have to watch Abigail's smug grin or my mother's cold eyes. I tossed the keys onto the table and headed to the kitchen to make a cup of coffee. The old coffee maker sputtered and groaned, a tired echo of my own exhaustion, a reminder that even the small things in my life were falling apart. My phone buzzed. A message from my mother. "Nora, your father and I just spoke with Abigail. She'll be moving into that apartment next week. Please make arrangements to move out by Thursday. It's for Abigail's benefit. We hope you understand." The message was a dagger, twisting in my chest. I closed my eyes, struggling to keep the anger from boiling over. For Abigail's benefit? What about me? Their disregard was a wound, bleeding anew. Since when did I become a stranger in the very apartment I had paid for? I was an exile, cast out of my own life. Part of me wanted to call them right away, to scream that they were being completely unfair. The urge was a storm, raging within me, but I knew it would only make them look down on me more. Their disdain was a mirror, reflecting my perceived failure. In their eyes, I was always the failure, the one who never met the family's expectations. Meanwhile, Abigail was the golden child. She dropped out of college, drifted from job to job, but still received my mother's unconditional love. Her failures were forgiven, while mine were condemned. Whenever Abigail failed, my mother was there to bail her out. But when I lost my job, my mother said, "See, I told you to choose a more stable career." Her words were a verdict, sentencing me to shame. The phone rang again. I looked at the screen. It was Ethan, Abigail's ex-boyfriend. Why was he calling me? His name was a puzzle, stirring unease. "Ethan," I answered, my voice wary. "Nora," he said quickly, his breath heavy. "Can you meet me at the cafe on the corner of Bay and Elm? There's something you need to know." His urgency was a warning, pulling me into the unknown. What is it? My question was a shield, guarding against his revelation. "Come," he said, his voice tense. "Trust me, you need to hear this." His insistence was a hook, drawing me in. 15 minutes later, I walked into the cafe, scanning the room until I spotted Ethan in a corner booth. He was wearing a hoodie, holding a coffee cup but not drinking it. His posture was tense, a man burdened by secrets. His eyes were dark, circled like he hadn't slept in days. His exhaustion was a mirror, reflecting my own. "Nora?" Ethan nodded as I sat down. I don't even know where to start. His hesitation was a prelude, bracing me for the blow. "And why you're contacting me after 2 years," I said, folding my arms. My tone was sharp, a defense against his intent. Deciding, against his intent. Ethan took a deep breath and let it out. "Abigail, she's hiding something from everyone." His words were a spark, igniting my suspicion. "What is it?" I frowned. "That car she's been showing off. Do you know where the money came from?" His question was a key, unlocking a truth I dreaded. "From my savings," I said through clenched teeth. The admission was bitter, a truth I couldn't escape. Ethan shook his head. "Not just that. She took out a personal loan using your name." His revelation was a thunderbolt, shattering my world. My whole body went cold. "What did you just say?" "Abigail forged your signature to get a loan. It's $75,000, 0 cents. The number was a noose tightening around my future. I couldn't breathe. $75, 0 cents? That was more than enough to put a down payment on the apartment I'd been dreaming of. It was my dream, stolen by her greed. "You have to do something, Nora," Ethan said, his eyes full of concern. "She's spending your money like it's hers, and the worst part is your parents know." Their complicity was a betrayal, deeper than any before. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. They know, and they still let her do it. They don't just know, Ethan gritted his teeth. They helped her do it. Their collusion was a knife twisting in my heart. I stood up, feeling my face flush with heat. The heat was rage, burning through my shock. I need to go. Thanks, Ethan. My gratitude was curt, a shield against the storm within. Be careful, Nora, Ethan called after me as I rushed out of the cafe. Abigail, she's not the person you used to know. His warning was a shadow, trailing me as I fled. I hurried back to my apartment, my heart pounding like it was about to burst. The rhythm was a war drum, fueling my resolve. One thought echoed in my mind. How could Abigail do this to me? And how could my parents help her? The question was a fire, demanding answers. Standing in front of my apartment door, I saw a large cardboard box sitting right in the middle of the hallway. It was a symbol, marking my eviction. Move your stuff out. Abigail needs the room. The note was a decree, stripping me of my home. I clenched my fists, my fingers trembling. Abigail had taken everything from me. My efforts, my money, even the roof over my head. Her theft was a siege, leaving me defenseless. The laptop screen lit up with a familiar notification sound. I clicked on the email icon, determined not to let myself get lost in a storm of emotions. The email was a battlefield, where I'd face their betrayal, but then the subject line appeared like a knife twisting into my chest. Family reunion this weekend, the Carter family. The subject was a taunt, excluding me from their joy. I slowly opened the email. Beneath the flowery words, the fake scent of unity hung in the air like cheap perfume. Dear Nora, we're hosting a family reunion this weekend at the oceanfront estate. Abigail will be in charge of organizing it. There will be many special surprises for everyone. Unfortunately, due to limited seating, you won't be able to attend. Hope you understand. Love, Mom. The exclusion was a wound, bleeding rejection. I let out a dry, bitter laugh, my anger rising like a wave. Limited seating, right? I knew exactly what the real reason was. To them, I had always been the extra, the one who never fit into the perfect family picture they were painting. Their picture was a lie, airbrushing me out. I stood up and walked to the window, staring down at the street below. The headlights of passing cars flashed by, people moving like shadows without direction. The city was a mirror, reflecting my rootlessness. Everyone had a place to go, a place to call home, but me, even after contributing thousands of dollars to that oceanfront estate, I was still considered an outsider. I was a ghost, haunting their perfect world. The oceanfront estate. I closed my eyes, the image of it playing like a slow-motion film in my mind. The cream-colored house with the slate-gray tiled roof, the wide balcony facing the sea. It was once a sanctuary, now a stage for their betrayal. It was once a paradise for Abigail and me as kids, but now it was just a place where Abigail threw lavish parties, flaunting her glamorous life funded by my money. Her parties were a mockery, built on my sacrifice. The ringing phone snapped me back to reality. It was Mateo, my best friend from college and also my financial advisor. His call was a lifeline, pulling me from despair. Mateo, what's going on? I answered, my voice still tinged with a dull ache. Are you sitting down? Mateo asked. His gravity was a warning, bracing me for impact. What's wrong? A sense of foreboding washed over me. The oceanfront estate, it's up for sale. My heart stopped for a second. What? The news was a quake, shaking my foundation. They're selling it. They owe the bank over $120,000, 0 cents. Abigail just applied for another loan to cover the debt, but got denied. Now they have no choice but to sell the house. Their failure was a mirror, reflecting their greed. I sank back into the chair, my fingers trembling. They were selling the house that I once considered my last refuge. It was my anchor, now cast adrift. They were selling it without even bothering to tell me. The one who paid for the roof repairs, the insurance when Abigail set the kitchen on fire, trying to cook while drunk. My contributions were erased, their ingratitude a final blow. Mateo, I said, my voice suddenly calm and cold. Can you do me a favor? Of course. What do you need me to do? I want to buy that house, immediately. My decision was a rebellion, reclaiming what was mine. Mateo went silent for a moment. Are you sure? It's a lot of money. His caution was a test, questioning my resolve. I know, I said firmly. But I'm not letting them sell it to someone else, not the place that holds all my memories. Those memories were my claim. A legacy I'd defend. I'll handle all the legal work. But are you planning to buy it under your name? I shook my head, even though Mateo couldn't see me. No. I want it purchased under the real estate company I just formed last month. Anonymity was my shield, hiding my power. They won't suspect a thing. I don't want them to know I'm the one holding the deed to that house. Secrecy was my strategy, a silent strike. Got it, Mateo replied. I'll take care of it. Do you want me to keep you posted? No, I said, my eyes fixed on the laptop screen where my mother's email was still open. I just need to know the day they officially get evicted. That day would be my victory, a reckoning they'd never see coming. I hung up, taking a deep breath. In my mind, the image of Abigail laughing as she pushed me out of the apartment she stole was still crystal clear. Her laughter was a ghost haunting my resolve. The oceanfront estate was their last source of pride, the place where Abigail and my mother threw parties, bragging about their perfect family. But now, I was the one holding the keys. I was the unseen queen, ruling their former kingdom. I would let them keep pretending. Let them keep hosting family gatherings without me in a house they believed was still theirs. Their ignorance was my power, a secret I wielded. 2 months later, I stood on the 35th floor of Skyline Tower, the headquarters of Horizon Enterprises. The height was a metaphor, lifting me above their reach. Through the glass windows, I could see the entire city of Miami gleaming under the golden sun. The city was my canvas, a new world I'd paint. A strange feeling rose in my chest, the feeling of someone standing at the top, but still not fully believing it was real. Success was surreal, a dream I'd fought to make real 2 months ago. I was a jobless nobody, looked down upon by my family, pushed out of my apartment by my sister. That version of me was a shadow, now banished by light. But now, I was the international vice president of Horizon Enterprises, the one who'd just closed a merger deal worth over $200 million, 0 cents with Pinnacle Financial Group. The merger was my crown, proof of my triumph. This merger not only brought millions of dollars in revenue to my company, but also solidified my position in the financial industry, a field my family never considered me capable of succeeding in. Their doubt was my fuel, driving me to soar. A knock on the door pulled me out of my thoughts. The door swung open and Mateo walked in holding a newspaper. Take a look at this, he said, his smile proud. I think you'll like this article. His pride was a mirror, reflecting my achievement. He placed the newspaper on the table in front of me. The headline hit me like a lightning bolt. Nora Carter, the woman who changed the financial landscape of Horizon Enterprise. The words were a beacon, illuminating my worth. Beneath it was a photo of me shaking hands with the senior executives of Pinnacle, my smile confident, my face glowing. The image was my victory, captured for the world. I can't believe it, I whispered. Everything happened so fast. The speed was dizzying, but I'd kept pace. You did it, Nora, Mateo said, sitting across from me, his expression serious. And now everyone has to recognize it. His words were a vow, affirming my place. I nodded, my eyes still fixed on the newspaper. In my mind, the image of my family flashed, especially my mother and Abigail. They had always seen me as a failure, someone incapable of achieving anything substantial. Their scorn was a shadow, now dispelled by my light name when they saw my face on the cover of the top financial magazine. The question was a challenge, daring them to face me. I just got a call from a TV station, Mateo said, leaning forward. They want you to do an interview about the Pinnacle merger and your upcoming plans in Singapore. The invitation was a stage, where I'd shine. I looked up. Singapore. The city was a new frontier, calling my name. Mateo smiled. Didn't you hear? The board just approved your new position as International VP, and the new headquarters will be based in Singapore. You'll be managing the entire Asia-Pacific region. The role was a throne, crowning my assembly. My heart skipped a beat. Singapore, the city of lights, opportunities, and endless possibilities. I'd once dreamed of working there, but never imagined I'd be in such a high-ranking position. The dream was now reality, a testament to my fight. "You deserve this, Nora," Mateo said, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "But before you head to Singapore, I think you should see this." Mateo pulled out his phone, tapped a few buttons, and handed it to me. His gesture was a key, unlocking their downfall tactically. It was a live video stream from a party at the oceanfront estate, the house I secretly purchased. In the video, Abigail was standing in the middle of the living room holding a wine glass, her shrill laughter echoing. Her laughter was a mockery, ignorant of my power. "Everyone, let's raise a glass to me. Today, I officially became the new business director of the family company." Her triumph was a lie, built on my stolen foundation. The crowd erupted in applause. Abigail stepped to the center of the room, raising her glass high. "I told you all. I finally have it all. This house, the director position, and everyone's recognition." Her boasts were a facade, soon to crumble. Mateo paused the video and looked at me, his expression serious. "They have no idea you bought that house, do they?" I gave him a half smile. "No, and I don't plan on telling them. At least not yet." My secrecy was a weapon biding its time. Mateo tilted his head, a hint of curiosity in his eyes. "So? When are you going to reveal the truth?" "I'm going to wait until everyone is settled in Singapore," I said, my gaze fixed on the expansive view outside. "Then, I'll send the official notice, and when they find out that the house they were so proud of actually belongs to me, I want to be there to see their faces. That moment would be my reckoning, their shock my reward." Mateo raised an eyebrow, visibly surprised. "You've really changed, Nora, from the girl they trampled on to a strong, ruthless businesswoman." "No," I said, eyes still locked on the skyline. "I'm still Nora. I've just learned to fight back instead of bowing down. I was the same, but forged anew, unyielding." At that moment, my phone rang. An unfamiliar number flashed on the screen. The number was a mystery, stirring unease. "Hello?" I answered. "Nora?" My mother's voice trembled, laced with desperation. Her tone was a crack, revealing her vulnerability. "I just read the article about you. Is it true? You're really the international vice president at Horizon Enterprises?" Her question was a plea, seeking the truth she'd ignored. I let out a bitter laugh, each word from her like a knife slicing through my chest. "Yes, Mom. Now you finally see the truth, don't you?" My response was a mirror, forcing her to face me. There was silence on the other end. I thought she'd hung up, until she spoke again, her voice shaky. "Nora, can you help Abigail? She's in serious trouble." Her request was a chain trying to bind me to their chaos. I gripped the phone, my breathing quickening. "Help Abigail? The one who stole my apartment, drained my savings, and threw parties in the house she didn't even know I owned?" Her audacity was a fire, igniting my rage. "Nora, are you still there?" Her voice was a tether, pulling at my resolve. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. The moment I would show them. I was no longer the pushover Nora they could easily take advantage of. I was a fortress, unyielding to their pleas. "I'm sorry, Mama Mai," I said, my voice as cold as ice. "I'm busy preparing for my flight to Singapore, and this time I'm not looking back." My refusal was a blade, severing their hold. I hung up, feeling like I had just severed the final chain tying me to the past. The disconnection was a liberation, freeing me from their grasp. Mato stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "The chapter you write for yourself." His words were a promise, heralding my new beginning. I nodded, eyes steely. "And this time, no one will take it from me." On a bright, clear day, a gentle sea breeze swept through the trees. I stood in the living room of the oceanfront estate. The house was my kingdom, reclaimed from their grasp. The house that once belonged to my family. Now, it was mine, and they had no idea. Their ignorance was my triumph, a secret I savored. I wore a cream-colored dress, sharp heels, and my hair was neatly pulled back in a high bun. My appearance was a statement, radiating power. Sunlight streamed through the large glass windows, casting my reflection onto the polished wooden floors. I adjusted the sapphire necklace around my neck. The necklace was my crown, a symbol of my victory. A gift I'd for myself after the Singapore deal was a smashing success. It was a reward, earned through my conquest. The sound of car horns echoed from the driveway. The noise was a herald, announcing their arrival. My heart pounded, but my face remained calm. My calm was a mask, hiding the storm within. They were here. I walked to the door, opened it, and greeted them with a radiant smile. My smile was a weapon, disarming their expectation. Abigail was the first to step in, dragging a massive suitcase, her face beaming as if she were still the queen of this house. "Nora, you're here," Abigail chirped, eyes wide when she saw me. "You're here for the reunion too?" Her surprise was a crack, revealing her ignorance. I tilted my head, a sly smile forming. "Oh, of course I had to be here to welcome everyone." My words were a trap, luring them into my reveal. Before Abigail could respond, my parents walked in. My mother was wrapped in her favorite cashmere shawl, her eyes scanning every inch of the house as if inspecting her territory. Her scrutiny was acclaim, soon to be shattered. "Why are you here?" Her question was a challenge, one I'd meet head-on. "Why am I here?" I repeated, my tone calm. "Oh, I'm just here to welcome the special guests of the day." My response was a veil, hiding my true intent. Abigail frowned. "What are you talking about? This is my house." Her claim was a delusion, ripe for destruction. I let out a soft, almost pitying laugh. "Your house?" I pulled a folder from my coat pocket and held it up. "This is the new ownership certificate for this house. It was transferred 2 months ago. The new owner is me." The certificate was my scepter, proclaiming my rule. All 3 of them stood frozen, eyes wide with disbelief. Abigail stared at the papers in my hand, her lips moving as if trying to form words. You bought this house?" Abigail stammered. Her shock was a victory, her world crumbling. "With the money you stole from me," I said, locking eyes with her. "When you took my apartment, when you drained my savings, the money I spent 7 years working for." My accusation was a gavel, delivering justice. I decided I wasn't going to just sit back and let it happen, and this is the result. The result was my empire, built from their ruins. My mother shook her head, her eyes glistening with tears. "Nora, you can't do this to your family. This house is where we made all our childhood memories. How could you?" Her tears were a plea, but I was unmoved. "Oh, you want to talk about childhood memories?" I stepped closer to her, our faces inches apart. "Then, do you remember the mornings I woke up at 5 to make breakfast for Abigail? Or the times I had to take days off work to babysit her when she was unemployed and drunk?" My memories were a mirror, forcing her to face her neglect. My mother fell silent, her gaze dropping to the floor. Her silence was an admission, her guilt laid bare. "And," I turned to my father, the man I once thought would protect me no matter what. "Do you remember the last time you called me a daughter to be proud of? Or do you only remember Abigail, your perfect little princess?" My question was a blade cutting through his facade. My father clenched his jaw, not saying a word. His silence was a confession, his failure exposed. Abigail's hands balled into fists, her face flushing red. "What are you trying to prove, Nora? Do you think just because you have some money now, you can come back here and humiliate me?" Her defiance was a spark, but I was the flame. I arched an eyebrow. "Humiliate you? You think this is humiliation? You don't know what humiliation is yet." My words were a promise, a storm on the horizon. I walked to the kitchen counter, pulled out another stack of papers, and placed them on the table in front of them. "These are reservations for suites at the 5-star hotel downtown. All rooms are ready for you to host this year's family reunion." The reservations were my mercy, a final gesture before their fall. My mother's eyes widened. "A hotel? Why do we need to go to a hotel? This is our house." Her denial was a castle, crumbling under my truth. "Your house?" I sneered. "No, this is my house, and today I'm not in the mood to host any family reunion here." If you want to keep partying, the five-star hotel is the perfect choice. My offer was a banishment, casting them out. Abigail stormed up to me, her eyes blazing. You're a monster. How long have you been planning this? Her accusation was a cry, powerless against my resolve. Since the day you took my apartment, I said, my voice icy. And you know what, Abigail? This is just the beginning. My promise was a vow, heralding their reckoning. Abigail clenched her fists, her eyes burning with fury. You'll pay for this, Nora. I swear. Her threat was a whisper, lost in my storm. I've already paid more than enough, Abigail, I said, my gaze unyielding. Now it's your turn. My words were a gavel, sealing their fate. Outside the window, the waves crashed against the shore in powerful, relentless surges. The ocean was my ally, echoing my strength. But this time, I wasn't the weak, helpless girl standing on the sidelines of my own life. I was Nora, the architect of my destiny. 2 months after the tense confrontation at the oceanfront estate, I sat by the window of my new apartment in downtown Miami, watching the city lights shimmer like stars. The lights were a constellation, mapping my new life. The oceanfront estate was now rented out, bringing in a steady income. The income was my shield, securing my future. I no longer felt the need to hold on to it. It was just a piece of the past I was determined to leave behind. The estate was a chapter, now closed. My phone rang. It was my mother's number. I stared at the screen for a long time. Her call was a ghost haunting my peace. Since that day, she hadn't called. Abigail hadn't either. It was as if they both decided I no longer existed. Their silence was a void, but I'd filled it with strength. Finally, I picked up. Hello, Nora. My mother's voice was weak and shaky. Her frailty was new, a crack in her armor. Can I see you? Her request was a plea, seeking a bridge I wasn't sure I'd cross. I sighed.
What do you want?
My question was a guard, protecting my heart. I just want to see you, please. Her desperation was a weight pressing on my resolve. I closed my eyes, forcing myself to stay calm. Fine. Meet me at the cafe on Bay Street at 4. My agreement was a test, measuring her sincerity. At 4:00, I sat in the corner booth, my hands wrapped around a steaming latte. My mother walked in, looking thinner and more frail than I remembered. Her frailty was a mirror, reflecting the cost of her choices. She sat down across from me, eyes hesitant. What do you want to say? I started. She looked at me, her eyes red-rimmed. I've been thinking a lot since that day. I was wrong. I can believe things have gone this far. Her admission was a crack, letting light into our darkness. I crossed my arms over my chest. Really? Then why didn't you say anything when Abigail took my apartment? When she spent all my savings? What did you do? My questions were arrows, piercing her excuses. My mother dropped her head, her fingers twisting together. I knew everything, but I kept quiet because I was afraid of losing Abigail. Her confession was a wound, bleeding truth. I let out a bitter laugh. So, you'd rather lose me than lose Abigail? My accusation was a mirror, forcing her to face her failure. My mother reached into her bag and pulled out a small black box, placing it on the table. Open it. Her gesture was a key, unlocking the past. I frowned, hesitating before lifting the lid. Inside were old photographs, letters, and crayon drawings I'd made as a child. There was even the letter I'd sent her when I moved into my first apartment after college, sharing my dreams and plans. The letter I thought she had thrown away. The keepsakes were a bridge, connecting us to a lost time. You kept all of these? I asked, my voice thick with emotion. The discovery was a spark, igniting forgotten warmth. I never forgot you, Nora, my mother replied, tears streaming down her cheeks. I was too weak. I thought if I admitted Abigail was wrong, she'd hate me. But now I realize I've lost you. Her regret was a tide, washing over us both. I looked into my mother's eyes, and the coldness I'd been holding on to began to melt away. The ice was thawing, but the scars remained. But the pain was still there, like a wound that hadn't fully healed. The pain was a reminder, grounding my forgiveness. So, what do you want now? My question was a gate, testing her intent. My mother reached for my hand, her eyes pleading. I want you to give me a chance. I'm not asking you to forgive me right away, but please let me show you that I still care. Her plea was a seed, planted in hope. I pulled my hand away and stood up. You know what? I once wished, just once, you'd stand by me, but you didn't. My words were a lament, mourning what was lost. Now I need time to think. Time was my shield, guarding my heart. My mother watched me, her face stricken. Nora, can't you? 2 days later, I was sitting in my office, eyes fixed on the computer screen when the door burst open. Abigail rushed in, her face pale and exhausted. Her desperation was a storm, breaking her facade. Nora, she shouted, her eyes red and swollen. You have to help me. Her plea was a chain, trying to bind me once more. I looked up calmly. Help you? And why would I do that? My question was a wall, unyielding to her demands. The company I was working for just found out I faked my degree, Abigail said, her voice breaking. They fired me. I have nowhere to go. Her fall was a mirror, reflecting her deceit. I leaned back in my chair, crossing my arms. Really? Mom's perfect little princess now needs help from the daughter she always called a failure. Her words were a blade, cutting through her pride. Abigail dropped to her knees in front of me, tears streaming down her face. I know I was wrong, Nora. I know I was terrible to you. But I have nothing now. No money, no job, and Mom doesn't know what to do. Her tears were a plea, but I was unmoved. I looked down at Abigail, the sister who stole my apartment, who humiliated me in front of everyone. Her downfall was a reckoning, one I'd orchestrated. Now she was on her knees begging for my help. I leaned down, lifting her chin to look her in the eyes. You know, Abigail, I used to be you, always begging for someone to notice me. But I'm not that weak, Nora, anymore. My strength was a fortress built from their ruins. If you want to start over, I'll help you, but just this once. And if you ever betray me again, my warning was a vow, unyielding. Abigail nodded frantically, her tears falling like rain. I promise I won't betray you again. Her traçage a thread I'd test. Fine, I said, standing up. Then get up. I'll give you a job, but you're starting from the bottom. No exceptions. My offer was mercy, tempered by justice. Abigail grabbed my hand, sobbing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Her gratitude was a weight, one I'd bear cautiously. When Abigail left my office, I turned back to my desk, gazing out the window. The afternoon sun streamed in, illuminating the room. The light was a promise, heralding hope. Only just maybe I'd found a glimmer of light in the wreckage of the past. The glimmer was fragile, but it was real. But could I trust them again? I wasn't sure. But at least I was willing to try. Trying was a bridge, one I'd crossed with care. The Singapore skyline stretched endlessly, skyscrapers glittering like stars against the night sky. The city was my new kingdom, a realm of possibility. I stood on the balcony of my new apartment, holding a glass of wine, eyes fixed on the city, slowly drifting into sleep. The wine was a toast to the life I'd claimed. It had been 2 months since I arrived here, starting my new role as the International Vice President of Horizon Enterprise. The role was my throne, a testament to my ascent. Everything happened so quickly that I barely had time to breathe. Life was busy and successful, yet strangely lonely. The loneliness was a shadow, lingering despite my triumph. It was Abigail. I set the wineglass down, my finger hovering over the screen. Her call was a test, measuring her change. Finally, I answered. Sis, Abigail's voice sounded weak and shaky. I just wanted to tell you that I got my first job since getting fired. Her news was a spark, igniting cautious hope. I questioned, really? You did it? My question was a bridge, reaching toward her. Yes, Abigail said, her voice a bit stronger now. I had to start as a receptionist. But at least I'm working for real this time, not living off someone else. Her effort was a step away from her past. That's what I always wanted you to understand, I said. feeling a weight lift off my chest. "You're growing up, Abigail." My words were a gift, acknowledging her progress. Abigail was silent for a moment. "Sis, are you still angry at me?" Her question was a mirror, reflecting our fractured bond. I looked out at the vast cityscape, the lights still flickering in the distance. "You know, Abigail, forgiveness isn't easy. I was furious with you, but holding on to that anger only made me more exhausted. Forgiveness was a release, freeing my heart. So, I'll forgive you, but with conditions." Conditions were my shield guarding my trust. "What conditions?" Abigail asked, her voice tense. "You have to stand on your own 2 feet, I said firmly. "No more asking Mom for money, no more relying on anyone else. You have to support yourself. And if you can do that, my door will always be open for you." My offer was a pact, binding her to change. Abigail began to cry. "I understand. I won't let you down." Her tears were a promise, one I'd watch closely. I nodded but said nothing more. Though I had forgiven her, my trust was still far from restored. Trust was a bridge, built slowly. For the next day, as I was going through financial reports on my computer screen, there was a knock at the door. The knock was a summons, pulling me from my work. "Come in," I said without looking up. The door opened and my mother walked in. Her presence was a shock, a ghost from my past. I was so shocked that I couldn't speak. She stood there wearing a simple dress, clutching her handbag tightly. Her simplicity was new, a departure from her past grandeur. "Nora." She looked at me, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I know you're busy, but I need to talk to you." Her voice was a plea, seeking a chance. "You flew all the way from Miami?" I asked, still struggling to believe she was actually standing in front of me. Her journey was a testament, proving her intent. "Yes," she said, lowering her eyes. "I needed to talk to you in person. I've been thinking a lot since that day." Her reflection was a mirror, showing her regret. I stood up and gestured to the chair across from me. "Have a seat." My gesture was an olive branch, cautious but real. My mother sat down, still clutching her bag. "Nora, I've made so many mistakes. I let Abigail walk all over you. I didn't protect you when you needed me most. I let my fear of losing Abigail make me turn my back on you. And now, I realize I've lost both of my daughters." Her confession was a tide, washing away her defenses. My eyes stung. Every word she said was like a knife piercing through my heart. Her words were a bridge, spanning our divide. "I went to see Abigail," she continued. "She's trying to change. She found a real job. And I think it's because of you. You made her see that no one can rely on others forever." Her acknowledgement was a gift, recognizing my influence. "Mom," I choked up, "do you know how much I suffered, watching Abigail live in my apartment? Watching you and Dad defend her without a single thought for me? My pain was a river flowing freely. I was blind." Her apology was a seed, planted in remorse. I took a deep breath. "You know what? Huh? You lost me a long time ago, but if you really want to change, I'll give you a chance." My offer was a door, cracked open. My mother's eyes widened, hope shining through the tears. You forgive me?" Her hope was a spark, fragile but real. "I won't forget what you did," I said, my voice still cold but softening slightly. "But I'll open the door for you to step back in. The rest is up to you, whether you're strong enough to rebuild what you broke." My conditions were a framework guiding our future. My mother nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I will try. I promise." Her promise was a vow, one I'd hold her to. The hug was a bridge, reconnecting us. She held on to me as if afraid I might vanish at any moment. Her grip was a lifeline, clinging to hope. In that moment, I felt the warmth I had been longing for all these years. The warmth was a hearth, kindling our bond. That evening, I sat on the balcony, looking up at the night sky. A message from Abigail popped up on my phone screen. "I just sent you a picture of my new apartment. I'm paying the rent myself. I hope that one day I can invite you over." Her message was a step toward a new beginning. I looked at the photo. A small but tiny and clean apartment. Abigail was standing by the window, smiling. I replied, "I'd be waiting for that day. My reply was a promise, open to her change. I put the phone down, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath. From here in Singapore, I was beginning a new chapter. Singapore was my canvas, where I'd paint my future. No longer the weak Nora, no longer the abandoned girl. But I would still keep the door open for Abigail, for my mother, and for anyone who truly wanted a change. The door was my mercy, a chance for redemption. Because I'd learned that forgiveness isn't about forgetting the past. It's about opening your heart to something better. And this time I was ready. Forgiveness was my strength, a gift I gave myself. My apartment in Singapore was now fully furnished. The wide glass walls opened up to a view of the glittering Marina Bay. The bay was a mirror reflecting my new life. Inside, the living room was neatly arranged with a modern white sofa and an abstract painting I had just bought last week. The decor was my signature, a blend of triumph and taste. I sat in the chair holding a cup of hot tea, my eyes following the boats drifting lazily on the water. The boats were a metaphor, carrying me toward peace. Everything was perfect, at least on the outside. But inside, I still felt an invisible void, like something hadn't quite been filled. The void was a whisper, reminding me of my journey. Marine's phone buzzed. A message from Abigail. I just got hired as a marketing assistant. I did the application myself without anyone's help. I've changed, sis. Her progress was a light piercing my darkness. I smiled and typed back. Been proud of you. My pride was a bridge, connecting us anew. Setting the phone down, I leaned back in the chair, my mind drifting to the past. Back then, I thought that getting justice was the ultimate goal. When I took back the oceanfront estate, when I threw them out, I thought I'd won. Justice was a fire, but it left ashes. But in reality, the emptiness still haunted me every night. The emptiness was a shadow, lingering in victory. Maybe what I truly craved wasn't revenge, but recognition. I wanted my mother to see me, not as the girl she always considered a failure, but as a woman standing on her own, successful without relying on anyone. Recognition was my true prize, earned through my fight. I wanted Abigail to realize her mistakes and change, not for me, but for herself. Their change was my legacy, a testament to my influence. But throughout it all, I also realized something else. Success isn't about revenge. It's about rediscovering your own worth. Worth was my foundation, rebuilt from ruins. About rebuilding from the shattered pieces of old wounds. Each piece was a lesson, shaping my strength. One afternoon, as I sat in my office, Mateo walked in, carrying a small gift bag. His arrival was a gift, brightening my day. "Nora," he said, placing the bag on my desk with a smile. "Congratulations on 1 year of success in Singapore." His words were a crown, honoring my journey. I laughed, opening the bag. Inside was a framed photo. Me standing on the rooftop of the Horizon Enterprises building, looking confidently toward the horizon. The photo was a portrait, capturing my triumph. I took it secretly. Mateo winked. "You had no idea." His mischief was a spark, igniting my joy. I stared at the photo, emotions swelling in my chest. "Thank you, Mateo. You've always been there when I had no one else. My gratitude was a bond, forged in loyalty. And you have your mother. She's trying to reconnect with you little by little." His words were a mirror, reflecting my new family. I sighed, gazing out the window. Family isn't about blood. It's about the people willing to change and walk with you when you succeed, even if it's late. Family was my choice, built on trust. Mateo nodded. "And now you've built a new family. People who genuinely appreciate you for who you are." His affirmation was a cornerstone, grounding my new life. That night, I returned to my apartment and opened the box my mother had given me before she returned to Miami. Inside were old keepsakes, the letter I'd written to her when I got accepted to college, a drawing Abigail made for me when we were kids, and the bracelet my father had given me on my 17th birthday. The keepsakes were a time capsule preserving our past. I held the bracelet, the cold metal sending a chill through me as it awakened memories long buried. The chill was a reminder, connecting past to present. My phone buzzed again. It was a video call from Abigail. Her call was a bridge spanning our divide. "Nora," Abigail said excitedly when I answered. She was sitting on the old couch in her new rented apartment, surrounded by unpacked boxes. Her setting was humble, a sign of her growth. "What are you up to?" I asked, trying to suppress a smile. "My boss said I have good communication skills and might be considered for a management assistant position if I keep it up." Her achievement was a spark, lighting her path. "Really?" I asked, feeling a surge of pride. Abigail nodded, her eyes shining. "I just wanted to thank you, Nora. If it weren't for you, I never would have learned how to stand up and start over." Her gratitude was a gift, mending our bond. "No, Abigail," I said gently. "You did that yourself. I just helped you see your own strength." My words were a mirror, reflecting her potential. Abigail was silent for a moment. "I miss you, Nora. I hope one day we can sit down, have tea, and talk like real sisters." Her hope was a seed planted in our future. I bit my lip, looking up at the ceiling to hold back the tears. "I hope for that too, Abigail, and I believe that day will come." My belief was a promise, open to her change. The next morning, I woke up early and decided to take a walk along Marina Bay. The sea breeze gently tousled my hair, carrying with it the familiar scent of salt. The breeze was a caress, soothing my soul. I stopped in front of a small cafe, walked inside, and ordered a hot latte. The latte was a ritual, grounding me in the present. As I sat down, I took out my phone and sent a message to my mother. "Mom, I hope you're doing well. Whenever you're ready, come visit me in Singapore. I'll show you all the places I've been." The door is still open, and I'm still waiting. My message was an invitation, extending a hand. I set the phone down and took a deep breath. Singapore sparkled with city lights. The sky stretched out endlessly, no longer weighing down on me like it once did, because now I had truly found myself. The city was my home, a place where I belonged. I had redefined my worth, not by proving myself to those who didn't value me, but by embracing who I was and letting the world see that I had truly changed. My worth was my truth, shining for all. Nora's story wasn't just a journey from pain to success. It was an awakening to her own worth and the true meaning of family. It was a rebirth, from ashes to light. Through the hurt and betrayal, she learned that success wasn't about getting revenge or proving herself to those who never appreciated her. Instead, she redefined her value, rebuilt her life from a foundation of self-respect and independence. Her foundation was unshakable, built on her terms. Nora chose to forgive but not forget, to open her heart but not be naive, and ultimately she found her true peace. Her peace was a treasure, earned through courage. What do you think of Nora's transformation? Was her forgiveness and open heart worth it after everything her family put her through? Share your thoughts and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful stories about family, and Nora's journey is a beacon, inspiring us to reclaim our worth. Nora's path from betrayal to triumph shows the pain of being unseen by those we love, yet it radiates the power of self-worth. Many know the ache of being undervalued, yet rise to redefine their value. Your struggles, like hers, are valid and inspiring. If you fought to be recognized or rebuilt after loss, you're not alone. Share your journey below or with a trusted friend. Your story will light the way for others. Let's build a community where empathy heals, where pain fuels strength. What's your story? Speak it, we're listening.